Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to share our progress on the Civic Center Next 100 planning. This was an effort that began many years ago now, with substantial input from you, the public, on what types of new programs and renovations would be desirable in this beloved park. Today, we would like to share our vision for phases 1 and phase 2 of the Next 100 planning effort. So that's the Greek Theater and the Central Promenade. Next. This vision is an extension of the early concept planning that was shared back in around 2021. And since then, in 2023, we brought on a new team to further develop these concepts and reimagine with us what this park can truly be. Next, with that, I'd like to introduce our team, a combination of national talent in Studio Gang and Olin, working hand in hand with our local architecture and landscape firms, Studio Trope and Mundus Bishop. So today, you will hear from Juliana Wolf, principal and partner at Studio Gang, and Trevor Lee, principal and partner at Olin, who will share with you a glimpse into the Next 100.
Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be here with you today to share with you our initial thinking on the work we have been doing. The first thing we wanted to point out is that we are so excited about the park itself and what it does for so many people and how it can transform and take on so many different lives, really. So it is a primary civic gathering space in Denver and really for Colorado, and is really the place where many people come for big occasions, whether that's protests or celebrations. And we want to make sure that anything we do with any interventions to the park still can allow for these kind of events to happen. We also have witnessed and have heard how great the park functions for these really large concerts. So when there is a stage set up on Bannock and the audience can gather on the Great Lawn, where up to 40,000 people can easily come together and listen to these large events that are very successful. So we want to make sure we retain that kind of functionality as well. We then have also learned and witnessed the many programmed activities within the park, such as Civic Center Eats or Christkindlmarkt. And we know that they are very popular. And we also know, though, that there are some challenges in setting up those kind of events, just in terms of the spaces that are available and also the infrastructure that is available to host those kind of events. And then finally, as we scale down, we have seen and experienced and heard that the kind of individual daily casual use can really be improved, where the promenade and the Greek Theater itself, many areas within the park, they feel quite vast. There's a lot of hardscape, and we think that there is a way to make this daily experience, the kind of casual strolling through a park, cutting through the park from north to south, reading a book in the park, that those kind of experiences can really be improved. We also have studied the history of the park, this is an amazing historic photo that shows the not just the park in earlier years, but also the city around it. So what I love about that photo is it really shows how the city has grown and transformed around the park. So to the left there is the Greek Theater, and beyond that, what now is the cultural complex. But in that photo, it shows it was a residential neighborhood. None of the theaters were there yet. So while we want to make sure that we honor the historic kind of fabric of the park, we also want to make sure that it is being transformed to to today's needs, really. And this is a drawing from or a diagram of the park plan of 1913, and it shows that this east-west civic axis is really the strong axis that is connecting the state capital with the city and county building, and somewhat secondary to that is the north-south cultural axis that really stops between or is framed by the Voorhees and the Greek theater. But today, that development north and south has really grown tremendously. So we now have the commercial district to the north, we have the cultural complex to the south. So how does the cultural axis actually expand and create that connection through the park is something that we are working on, especially since we are focused on the promenade and the Greek theater. That is our scope right now. It is that connection to the south that we are very mindful of. The Golden Triangle Arts District, as a matter of fact, is one of Denver's most rapidly growing residential neighborhoods. There's a plan to add 7,000 residential units. So how do we actually create a much stronger way of connecting that neighborhood through the cultural complex into the park? Right now, a lot of the connections are a little bit more casual, kind of coming around the corner, but to really strengthen that connection is something from an urban planning point of view that is quite important and powerful. All right, so together with input from many of you, as well as the City and Parks departments, we summarized a series of project goals and design guidelines that are helping us to guide our work. So as mentioned, we want to make sure that we revitalize and preserve the historic integrity of the park and the Greek theater. We want to create a bold vision that sets us up for the next 100 years of the park and really help to further contribute to an activated and vibrant downtown. We want to make sure that the park remains and even more so becomes a premier destination for daily pedestrian enjoyment, both or for various groups, families, tourists, and commuters, visitors. And very important, Denver and the Civic Center Park is such an important location for the accessibility movement, and we want to celebrate that. We want to make sure that the park is accessible and celebrate the and honor the Gang of 19 event that happened in close proximity to the park. With that, I'll hand it over to Trevor, who is going to share the landscape design update with you.
Thank you, Juliana. Great to be here today to present with this fantastic project. The Civic Park open spaces today are underutilized. Planting along the promenade, while beautiful in full bloom, are viewed from afar and not interactive with the public. And there is very little shade and seating throughout the park. Often many utility and service vehicles access the promenade and use it on a daily basis and diminish the sense of the public realm. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing with this project. The Civic Park today is not accessible. The surrounding path network is inaccessible and also has several dead ends, as you can see here with those red X's. One of the key drivers of our design approach is to bring full accessibility to the park. The Civic Park has the capacity to hold both large and small events throughout the year, which is why this space is so wonderful. It's a place to celebrate and socialize for both visitors and Denver residents. And we want to keep that vitality with our and improve that with our design proposal. The pressure on the promenade is overlapping. The pressure from the promenade is overlapping with many uncoordinated programs that work independently of each other today. How can we begin to rethink how the Civic Park can work more strategically to improve the park experience holistically? Here, our vision for the park has pulled these many program elements together and located them strategically within a new and exciting accessible park path network, linking these many key moments and destinations together, creating a unified park experience. Within the improved Civic Park and Promenade, there are several new features, including 2 new public plazas, a new loop path, a public garden walk, and a renovated Greek theater with an exciting new park entry. Garden Room East is a framed courtyard just south of the Voorhees Memorial with playful furnishings and diverse seating for an accessible and family-friendly environment. We have established a centralized, dedicated food truck court, as you can see here with the blue dot on the site plan, key plan, to allow the promenade to be pedestrian focused and to have a dedicated place for electrical and utilities for the trucks in one central location. The garden walk establishes the gardens as a place to walk through, to enjoy as an interactive experience in the round, creating a more immersive and tactile place. The shaded Greek theater side courts will allow visitors to have a cool and comfortable experience and environment to rest, relax, and enjoy. The accessible and shaded Civic elliptical trail, as you can see here with the blue ellipse in the key plan, links the many destinations together and is smaller in scale than the main central promenade and offers a unique and more intimate experience and provides a new place to be within the park. The South Plaza is the gateway to the reimagined Greek Theater and Civic Park, a place with gardens, trees, and seating and full accessibility. The plaza space is dedicated to the Gang of 19, whose efforts led to the ADA Act of 1990. The design of the plaza foregrounds the Gang of 19 and their legacy with storytelling, wayfinding, and immersive gardens.
Thank you, Trevor. And with that, we want to share with you next the upgrades and updates to the Greek theater itself. So as we talked about earlier already, the Greek theater is one of the very important historic structures within the park. And we want to make sure that any intervention is honoring that and is working well with that historic structure. So we don't want to block the theater. We don't want to overwhelm the theater, overpower the theater with any new structures, but we really want to, any future interventions want to be a complementary part to this historic building that we are seeing on the screen. One of the challenges of the current Greek theater is the use of it for community events. So we talked about earlier how the park is able to host large concerts, huge concerts with a stage on Bannock, etc. But the Greek theater itself, it's really meant to be more for community events. So for performances, really anything from 10 people to 1,000 people. And we heard from you, and through the many surveys and stakeholder engagement sessions, heard that there is really the desire to have more of those kind of events in the Greek theater. But the challenge is that right now there is no theatrical infrastructure for that. There are no theatrical lights, there are no speakers. So anytime an event happens, that kind of infrastructure has to be brought in. And that is very expensive to do, which really hinders many of those kind of smaller scale events to happen. The other issue is that the size of the bowl, of the theater bowl, the seating bowl, is actually quite vast. So it feels not very intimate. It feels a little bit out of scale for those kind of smaller performances. And we were studying that a little bit more to think about why doesn't it feel quite right? And we did a scale comparison between the Greek theater and the Mission Ballroom in Denver. And that finding really was eye-opening to us, where On the left there, you see a drawing. So the black lines, that's a floor plan, a drawing of the Mission Ballroom in Denver, which holds up to 4,000, almost 4,000 people. And that is overlaid at the same scale on the bowl of the Greek theater. And what is striking is that they are almost the same size. So there is really an issue there with scale that we want to address. To make sure these shows are more intimate. Also, from a theatrical point of view, there are some further challenges. So right now, and I'm speaking to the diagram on the left of the screen, the audience is facing south. So the stage is located south. And that means that when the sun is shining, which we know is the case 360 days a year in Denver, the audience is actually looking into the sun, and there's a glare issue, and it's often difficult to see the stage. Many outdoor theaters actually reverse that, where it is flipped, where the audience is looking away from the sun and the performers are looking into the sun, because performers are used to looking in the spotlights anyway. So one way to solve that would be to build a whole shade structure over the entire seating bowl, but we don't really want to do that because then that would block the Greek theater itself. So that was one of the challenges we were dealing with. On the right is maybe a little bit more technical, but the seats, the arrangement of the seats in the bowl, they're actually not quite facing the stage. They're more facing the middle of the bowl. And what would be the best seats, which is where kind of that starburst, the pink starburst is, that is actually an kind of empty void. So there are no seats in this best location. Also, as Trevor had mentioned already, the diagram on the left shows where accessible routes actually have dead ends. So currently, one cannot, in an accessible way, get through the Greek theater because of the steps, both in north-south and east-west direction. So definitely something we need to fix. And then on the right, the diagram, that simply shows within the dashed pink line, that's the area where loading and backstage activity happens when there is a performance. The issue with that is that exactly that location should be the primary connection from the cultural complex into the park. But whenever a performance is happening, that access is being blocked. So all of these kind of challenges led us to think a little bit outside of the box, and maybe come up with something that is slightly unexpected. But we are so excited by this proposal because it solves so many different things. And what I'm talking about was this eureka moment where we realized when we just flip the stage to the other side of the bowl, so many of these issues are being solved. And let me talk you through what those are. So first of all, by doing that flip, by saying the stage is the stage is now at the side of the bowl that is adjacent to the promenade. What that means is even when there is a performance happening, the audience or even park visitors can still come through the gateway of the Greek theater into the park and simply go around the bowl and bypass it. So this very strong connection through the Greek theater and really making it into this grand gateway is becoming much stronger. And it's also becoming accessible. I'll talk about that in a little bit here. The way it's becoming accessible is that, and I'm speaking to the diagram on the left, is that we remove the stairs that are being the barrier to accessibility, and instead those thicker pink lines are swooping ramps or really walkways, sloped walkways that allow people to come and traverse at a level plane from the really curb on the south side all the way around the bowl into the park itself and the promenade itself. Furthermore, all the different seating areas are also accessible with ramps, so it's a fully accessible experience. This is another diagram that maybe shows in a little bit more three-dimensional way how these ramps work. So on the left, the different planes, so from +3 to -7, those are the different elevations that we have to somehow traverse with sloped walkways. And on the right, it shows how we are doing that. So we are raising a little bit the promenade itself and the bowl, and then we are creating these very, very generous curved walkways to traverse these various elevational heights. And in terms of the overall vision, what is quite exciting to us about this idea is that the stage and the canopy that is covering the stage, which is shown on the left here, that is creating a pair together with the Greek theater on the right, which is really, one is not blocking the other, one is not more important than the other, but they're really working together as a kind of complementary pair between new and old. And the canopy that you see, that is what's required to provide that kind of theatrical infrastructure that I was speaking of earlier. So the theatrical lights, the speakers, etc., that will be supported by that canopy, and the stage will be protected as well from the elements. The reason this kind of reconfiguration works so well is that what you see on the left is that the seats themselves, they have much better views now to the stage. The stage or the bowl can grow incrementally for performances of various sizes. And maybe most importantly on the right is you can see that now the audience is actually looking away from the sun toward the stage the way it should be. And so this reorientation really helps us to solve this glare issue. So when you are visiting the Greek theater to see a performance, or even in a daily, more casual way, the new canopy creates this iconic structure that is framing views of downtown. And not only that, the stage is also can be activated in more flexible ways. So on the left there, what's exciting is that beyond the bowl, actually the colonnade itself can become additional seating area. Right now, the colonnade is quite underutilized, while on the right, the diagram shows that audiences can really be gathering on either side of the stage within the bowl or just in the park, which allows for much more flexible use. And what we are all collectively excited about is that allows for much more of a variety of uses to take place. So not only performances, but also, for example, yoga classes under the canopy itself, or just a casual lunch within the theater bowl, or even a performance within the portion of the promenade that is facing the new stage. So many different scales of spaces and many different experiences can happen. And last but not least, we wanted to share this one more image that shows that new element within the park can certainly become a new iconic feature, but it is one that is working in complement with the great architecture, new and historic, that you have already, and is again not blocking the view or not taking over the presence of the Greek theater itself. Thank you very much. That concludes our presentation.